Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning everyone. My name is Rifa Anisa Dewi and my students number 182122079. In this video, I would like to share the material about assessment motivation strategies, and this material is a part of the material about assessment and students motivation that was explained by Mia Rosliana. Okay, an effective way in which teachers can motivate their students is by involving them in the process of assessment through various procedures. For example, teachers can involve students in setting learning outcomes or achieving goals. Although the main responsibility for creating these learning outcomes rests with the teacher and is usually guided by the curriculum and standard. Communicating these goals to students is one effective practical way of enhancing achievement. Staging suggests that a student keep learning logs as a way to engage them in assessment, increasing motivation and help them to reflect on and recognize their own improvement. Receiving frequent feedback from the teacher can also raise students' awareness of progress. Another way to motivate students is to involve them in designing assessment criteria. Macmillan 2014 discusses the importance of creating learning targets, which involves teachers and students specifying what a student is to know and or do as a result of instruction, and the criteria of evaluating the performance. Okay, we move to the next slide. It is about assessment tools. And assessment tools is the instrument such as form, test, rubric, etc. that is used to collect data for each outcome. The actual product that is handed out to students for the purpose of assessing whether they have achieved particular learning outcomes. And knowing which tools to use in the classroom requires teachers to ask a number of questions. For example, the first one is, which assessment tools provide the most useful feedback for my students? And the next, which assessment tools are most likely to be motivating for my students? And the next questions, which assessment tools are most likely to connect with or activate my students' prior knowledge, be that cultural, social, or academic? And last, which tools are easier to design and or score? So the first two questions are essential in supporting student learning in general. Question 3 acknowledges that in many language teaching contexts, our students come from various countries. And question 4 reminds us that it is always important to consider the practicality of assessment. Assessment has to support both teaching and learning in order for quality assessment to take place in instruction. Research shows that when students understand and apply self-assessment skills, their achievement increases. Black and William, 1998, and self-assessment plays a significant role in increasing students' motivation to learn. Through self-assessment, students directly observe their own improvement and therefore are more motivated to achieve. By involving students in the assessment processes, teachers encourage students to create a sense of internal responsibility for their achievement. This process is sometimes referred to as assessment as learning. Assessment as learning helps students to personally monitor their learning processes by involving students in self-monitoring or self and peer assessment activities, as well as by using feedback to effectively support their own learning. Assessment as learning is the use of task or an activity to allow students the opportunity to use assessment to further their own learning. Self and assessment uh, has allowed students to reflect on their own learning and identify areas of strength and needs, and also offer students the chance to set their own personal goals and advocate for their own learning. This is also important for students from various educational backgrounds because it creates an opportunity for them to connect their prior learning to the assessment tasks in their current classroom. Research has demonstrated that without this opportunity to connect, students will not progress effectively. Here are three further assessment examples of how we can support students' development. The first one is teachers can share with their students the assessment criteria, or even better, create the assessment criteria with their students. Both assessment process are valuable practice for students to see teachers and allies in their learning. Teachers can uh, Teachers can then use the criteria as feedback for students on their performance. Teachers should initiate this assessment process in small steps, as we need to consider in learning backgrounds our students. And the second one, teachers can use students' work as exemplars to illustrate levels of performance. This is best achieved through collaboration, as teachers work together to build a collection of student work over time. In addition, having teachers working together can ensure consistency of assessment. That is, teachers must reach agreement about what is good work and, most importantly, what such work look like in terms of language use and the demonstration of knowledge or control of content. And the third, teachers can let their students take more responsibility for their own learning. That is the use of assessment as learning. Many our students are far away from their families, so taking responsibility for their own learning is a big but essential first step towards being successful. That success will have a long-term impact on their lives, and teachers can demonstrate this through the use of self and peer assessment tasks. We can help our students by teaching them to be more analytic about their own learning by giving them class time and a structure to examine their own work in relation to previously explained criteria, and by clarifying how they can improve their work. For example, we can help our students to identify their mistakes by providing them with item analysis of their test or rubrics core projects. We can involve our students in thinking about their mistakes, give them time to consider why they made the mistake, and help them to understand what they will do differently next time. Thinking about doing better, Cinderella 2015 is an example of helping students to analyze their mistakes on a forced choice or short answer test. Each student has a form and works in a group of 2 or 3. After students analyze their mistakes with a partner, they are asked to set some learning goals. When students examine what they are doing well and what they need to improve on, they are beginning the process of setting their own goals for learning. Students should be encouraged to set small, realistic goals, as the most useful goals are those that reflect steps along the way, not just the final outcome. Taking small steps helps students to self-monitor their way to success. The first table, it is thinking about doing better. Maybe the directions identify 3 items, questions, or problems you missed on the test. You in here means your students, and then with a partner decide why the student missed the question and how the student could fix it. Next, with the student's partner, write down what the student will do differently the next time the student encounter a similar question or problem. And the teacher can budget the student's time to maybe 8 minutes per item. And the next table, it is my goals. This means the goals of your students, and maybe the directions, such as by yourself, write down to learning goals and the activities the student will engage in to reach them. If the students need help identifying activities, ask the student's partner, maybe or maybe to the teacher. Okay, that's all from our group. We are so sorry we have a lot of mistakes. If you have a question, please ask me or ask my another friends in group 6. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.